Guaranteed basic income. This is probably going to be one of the most hotly debated topics coming up in the next for the next 6 months, I guess, up until whenever the next election is going to be. Who knows? Maybe they're going to call the election. Maybe there's going to be non-confidence vote, and it's going to going to trigger election. Who knows what's going to happen? Anyways. My point is, though, guaranteed basic income, it is on top of mind for a lot of folks, mainly because this pandemic has exposed a lot of the cracks in the system that we currently have, now for better or for worse. And what that means is that a lot of people don't have access to savings. A lot of people don't have access to income when they can't go to work. That's that's pretty much it. That's fairly straightforward. So, people in certain types of industries, people in certain locations, they might not be able to have access to their jobs, right? A lot of people were able to work from home. They were able to change up their lifestyle to accommodate this new normal, but there's a lot of folks that were left out. And the question is, what can we do to manage that next time, right? So we don't have to come up with a CERB. We don't have to come up with any of these emergency systems. We can just rely on a system that is already in place to help manage that. Now, this is not me agreeing or disagreeing. I like to play devil's advocate when I'm looking at stuff, because when I come in with my own bias, which of course I have a bias, everybody does. I come in with my own bias. I'm less likely to, be malleable in my position. So the question is this something that we should talk about? And I think this article does a good job without having any bias. I mean, I say that because there's a lot of articles that, depending on how they're written, they might show the bias of the writer. But I felt like this one did a fairly good job. So let's take a look. Guaranteed basic income tops policy priorities for a Liberal caucus at upcoming convention. Caucus is calling on government to adopt idea for consideration in November. A guaranteed basic income for all Canadians has emerged as a top policy choice for Liberal MPs, just as the Trudeau government is crafting its plan to help weather the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and rebuild the ravaged economy. The Liberal caucus is calling on the government to adopt the idea in a priority policy resolution for consideration at the party's upcoming national convention, and MPs consider it so important that they've designated their top resolution, guaranteeing that it will go directly to November 12th to 15th convention for debate and vote. It is among more than the 50 priority resolutions for the governing party's provincial and territorial organizations and its various commissions that will be the subject starting Saturday of a 2-week online discussion among registered Liberals. Liberal MPs are not alone in urging a guaranteed basic income. The 50 resolutions include numerous calls from all corners of the country pressing the government to adopt the idea in one form or another. There are multiple resolutions, including one from the caucus, calling on the government to develop enforceable national standards for long-term care homes and to provide provinces with the funding needed to meet those standards. Long-term care facilities have borne the brunt of the more than 9,000 COVID-19 related deaths in Canada. Pandemic identified gaps in social safety net. The pressure for an overhaul of the Canadian social safety net comes just as the Liberal government is preparing for a throne speech on September 23rd, laying out its plan for protecting Canadians during the pandemic, which is heating up again after a bit of a summer lull and reviving the economy. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the, I guess, the unfortunate things, I guess, for politicians is that sometimes there's really nothing that they can do. Sometimes it's just a matter of kicking the can down the road and creating temporary measures. And at some point, those temporary measures will end because they're temporary. And once they end, then we're going to see the avalanche that we were trying to keep at bay. Just comes hurtling down and crushes everything, right? So we are looking at we're looking into a chasm as we're going forward, and there's really nothing that we can do about it. We have this wave of debt payments that are going to come have to start coming back online, and we have a lot of people that are not necessarily secure with their income, and they weren't secure prior to the pandemic. They may have had an opportunity to save a little bit, but as everything goes back to normal again, normal, we they they're gonna be running out of money, put it that way, and because maybe only one spouse is working, one person's working in the house. There was two prior to that, and so maybe there's less income in the household, and the expenses are going to start to go back up. Mortgage deferrals are going to end. A lot of payment plans that were provided are going to end, and yeah, it's going to cause a lot of pain. So the question is, what can we do to mitigate that, and not just now, but into the long term? Now, typically when they have a conversation about a some sort of universal income benefit, guaranteed basic income, the idea is that you do this in to replace, or basically it's like yeah, you're consolidating a lot of the other benefits that people would normally receive, and you're consolidating that benefit into this one benefit that everybody can receive, and that's the minimum that people start off with, so you don't have to apply for a bunch of different things. Here's one simple benefit that you can receive, easy access, less cost of administration, and that's supposed to be the benefit. Like, it's overall, it's supposed to cost less to produce this, whatever the amount that they come up with. It's supposed to cost less to produce that benefit to everybody, and yeah, and then that just keeps everybody afloat. That's supposed to be the idea, but I mean, it'd be really interesting to see how this is supposed to, or how this would be taken into consideration when it comes to making applications for housing, making applications for a mortgage. How would we qualify you? To what degree of the, because normally we take the benefits into consideration, right? If you're receiving a child benefit, or something of that nature, you take it into consideration for your income. I mean, seeing here how everybody would have a like a basic income amount, that would um, that would really be a game changer. I'm not sure if it would be positive or negative, just taking into consideration the amount of money that we're already spending on a lot of these other benefits. If we're able to consolidate it into one that's actually universally beneficial and keeps everybody at an even starting ground, maybe this would be a move in a positive direction. But let's take a look and to see even further what they have in mind. So the pandemic has exposed holes in Canada's safety nets, particularly in the employment insurance program, that proved incapable of helping the millions of Canadians left abruptly without incomes when businesses were shuttered in March to help curb the spread of the deadly coronavirus that causes COVID-19. The government hastily introduced a $2,000 per month Canada Emergency Response Benefit, CERB, to fill the void, which the caucus resolutions calls a progressive and transformative program that supported 8.5 million Canadians and proved to be both effective and popular. Well, popular is beside the point. Who cares if it's popular? The only question is it effective, and can it be sustained long term without any real deleterious effects to the economy, right? To the financial stability of Canada. Popularity is beside the point. You don't just do things because they're popular, you do things because they make sense. Advocates and had hoped that the CERB would eventually evolve into a permanent basic income program. Excuse me, would eventually evolve into a permanent guaranteed basic income, but the program is now winding down to be replaced by a more generous and flexible employment insurance. And while some ministers had initially suggested that the CERB could pave the way for basic income, government insiders now suggest that that kind of major reform is not in the cards while the pandemic continues to rage. However, the caucus resolution argues that the pandemic has created a unique opportunity to rethink the Canada of tomorrow. Yeah, I mean that's fairly typical. Politicians usually use crises to implement large changes, because people are usually more open, more flexible, because they're maybe afraid of what could happen, and solutions are welcome at that point. So it further argues that a guaranteed basic income would simplify the benefit applications for Canadians in need and reduce administrative costs for the government, while providing Canadians with income stability that is key to equality of opportunity, well-being, and dignity. So more than 500 resolutions proposed. So the convention is slated to take place in Ottawa. The party has yet to decide whether it will be a virtual convention or a hybrid of small in-person sessions with other Liberals participating electronically. The policy process has been entirely online. Liberal writing associations and parties' various commissions representing seniors, women, youth, and Indigenous people came up with more than 500 proposed resolutions, according to party spokesperson Braden Cayley. Thousands of grassroots Liberals then voted on their top three priorities, which within each region and commission, he said. After the 2 week discussion period, those resolutions will be whittled down again through another online vote to just 30, which will be sent on for debate at the convention. Each region and commission, as well as the caucus, has also chosen one top resolution to go directly to the convention. The resolution demonstrates some of the conflicting internal pressures on the Liberal government, particularly with respect to its goal of reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050. One from Newfoundland and Labrador calls for world-leading incentives and benefits for for that province's offshore oil and gas industry in order to attract sustainable exploration and production and fuel the economic recovery. But a Quebec resolution calls on the government to end support for both the fossil fuel and nuclear components of the energy industry, and a Youth Commission resolution for an economic recovery plan that promotes investment in the environmental infrastructure projects and investments from the oil industry. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff the other stuff that they're doing. I guess there's some internal things that they want to take a look at. But in terms of guaranteed basic income, the reason why I wanted to take a look at that is it's obviously going to have. I don't think it's going to pass. I mean, maybe it will pass, and then maybe it'll actually. I'm not sure if it's going to be something popular enough to become policy. If it could be something popular enough to become a policy, it would be now, right? Everybody can see the cracks in the system, and this would be a time to implement change like this. And I think Liberals and I think the NDP would get on board. I'm not sure who else would get on board, but I'm pretty sure that there would be enough support if they wanted to go ahead with something like that after the next election. But and who knows what Canada's going to look like at that point. But yeah, in terms of what's going to happen with our real estate, though, I mean, how would that impact real estate? I mean, obviously, I think what would happen is the floor would move up, if that makes sense. So whatever the people at the bottom, they would have more disposable income, obviously, and there would be more demand for those lower priced rooms, lower priced apartments. We would see the price start to shift up, and maybe that would cause a increased demand for the creation of lower rent apartments and wherever they may be. It also might, I mean, I think there could be a lot of positives for something like this, which is something I didn't think I would ever ever actually say. Just the fact that this is the way that Canada works right now. We do spend a lot of money on a lot of different types of benefits, and if you can just keep it as streamlined as possible and reduce overhead as much as possible and make it as simple. I don't know what kind of negative behavioral traits that it will create, because obviously there'll be a positive and a negative to it, because there's always a positive and negative to everything we do, because that's just how life is. For whatever reason, it's trade-offs. We don't get just a purely good option. So yeah, let me know what you think, though. Is now the time for a guaranteed basic income? Is now the time to get into this, to seriously consider doing something like this, or not, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on guaranteed basic income as a concept overall? Anyways, hope this was food for thought, and yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. All right, take care.